Absolutely. I think that once it's proven that the Fourth Amendment rights were violated, there's nothing left to do but to right the wrong. And the only way that you can do that is to reverse the fee. I don't know how the city in good conscience would keep somebody's money when they know that they didn't have the right to take it in the first place. And if the city were to decide not to reimburse the fines or not to reimburse them in full, then what that largely means is we have a panel of elected officials who are trying to protect the city as an entity instead of the citizens. And they're supposed to be working for us, not working for the city. I think that the codes are absolutely a priority, and I agree that that's one of the number one issues that I hear in running for city council as well. I actually started fighting the code enforcement issue before it became a popular issue in the city. In 2011, the code enforcement issues are largely what triggered me to run for city council for the first time. We had the city come after us in a very vindictive and retaliatory way, and I don't believe that that's why those codes are on the book. I think that when you have 9,000 of those letters going out in a 5-year period of time, that's nearly a letter for every hour of a business day in 5 years. So they're doing a lot of code enforcement. You have a lot of citizens that are affected by this, and it's absolutely something that we need to look at. And I think that what we need to do is we need to start weighing the property owner's rights versus the rights of the neighbors. We need to say, what are the rights that the property owner should have versus just the aesthetic appearance from the neighborhood. We need to make sure that we're siding on the side of property rights instead of aesthetics. And it doesn't mean that we throw everything out, but we reevaluate it and we make sure that it's meaningful, and we make sure that if we have a code, that we understand why we have that code and that we're preserving somebody's peaceable enjoyment of their property, and we're not just putting codes on the books and then sending people all over the city, employees and the VIPS drivers and so forth, just to look for people to fine. This shouldn't be an avenue of revenue generation. It is a position of conservatives to want to reduce the laws that are restricting our freedoms, and that's very much something that I stand for. That is something that I want to see, is that if we have laws on the books that serve no purpose, I will be the first one promoting that we end that code, that we get rid of that code, and that we make sure that we're very objective in the codes that we have on the books and not subjective. One of the things I've noticed over the course of this election cycle in particular is that there's a real adversity to bringing issues forward. It seems like anytime someone addresses an issue that's a very valid issue, and frequently one that the city goes ahead and admits to, the defense isn't to say, okay, here's the other side of this, or to actually debate the issue at hand, but kind of to kill the messenger. Go after the messenger. And one of the things I'd like to see is us to be able to talk about issues. I think that the first line of defense to be able to resolve the issues that we have is that we start saying things out loud. We stop burying our heads in the sand, looking the other direction, and just putting up superficial arguments. I'd like to see us address the issues, and if there are people who are involved in any sort of indiscretions or personal dealings or using codes or the city in any way for personal gains as opposed to for the greater good, what it's supposed to be designed for, then I think that there needs to be a zero tolerance policy. We can't tolerate that sort of behavior. One of the big misconceptions that's come to my awareness over the course of this election cycle is there is a lot of effort to make the municipal election cycle about federal issues. And if we have candidates coming to the table addressing federal issues, if I had the opportunity to appeal Obamacare, I could go out and tell the city of St. George, I'm on it. I'll repeal Obamacare. But that isn't something that a city council member is going to do. And those issues become a distraction. They become a distraction from what we should be talking about. And they take our focus off of what's really going on in the city. Neither Rush Limbaugh or Rachel Maddow has talking points on roads, drainage, carousels, animal shelters, or code enforcement. So these are the things that we need to focus on, and we also need to educate the public that this is what they should be vetting their candidates on. And then maybe we'll have a city that really does start to work for all of the citizens instead of working for a select few people. I think that the big thing that I can bring is I have a new perspective on the issue. I'm not going in having long relationships with other people on city council, with either of the mayoral candidates, with managers within the city, with any of the city leadership. So going in to have this perspective, everybody's on even ground and you can kind of evaluate what you're seeing instead of knowing that that person's a good guy and we're not going to question what they're doing because you just already have these preconceived notions that this person is good and therefore doing the right thing. Then that gives me an ability to have clear critical thinking. and to evaluate what I'm seeing. I think that I have the ability to make sure that the citizens are being represented instead of the city. I'm not running for city council to represent the city of St. George. I'm running for city council to represent the citizens of St. George. And that, as we've seen with the code enforcement issue, is not the same thing.